in the next building. She owns and runs Pranic Healing San Diego and SciTech, which you're probably going to speak about. Oh, okay. Well, SciTech is a very innovative medical device company which has the GDD, it has thermography, it has a lot of the equipment. Dr. Streeter, Dr. Rubik, we're speaking about really innovative technology that's non-invasive for pre-medical diagnosis, before issues could emerge and are evident in traditional Western medicine. What I really want to say about Dr. Mary Clark is I had the opportunity this year to take two of her classes, the Advanced Integrative Therapy and the Pranic Healing levels 1 through 4, the beginning through the intermediate and the advanced. And I'd never experienced anything like that when I was in school, because I was straight clinical. Just give me the clinical, I don't want to know about anything else. And, before I had to change. And that changed. Not the other thing. And Dr. Mary Clark's classes were eye-opening. And these are classes that are open to everybody in the community. If you have a psychological background or worked in counseling intervention, you can take AIT and not be a student here. Pranic Healing is open to anyone who is interested, who it resonates with. And these classes, you can go, Ron said this to me, that you could go into Mary's Pranic Healing as a non-believer and come out a believer. I'd never experienced anything like it. It's really paradigm shifting. So you really, after all that time and, experience, it really opened my eyes to something different in psychology. And thank you for that. So it's my honor to introduce her and have her on our faculty.
Thank you. When I got here this weekend and looked at the abstract that I wrote on what I'm going to talk about, I realized that I didn't prepare my talk according to the abstract that I was supposed to submit several months ago. So one of the main parts has to do with what is pranic healing. This is a piece of research validating the basic principles of pranic healing, and I got right into it and forgot to talk all about it. I'm going to give you a snapshot of what pranic healing is. So I'm going to just talk briefly about that. Pranic healing is a non-touch energy modality that was developed by Master Choa, and he was a Chinese Filipino living in Manila, who, with a team of doctors and a team of clairvoyants for over 20 years, studied over 50 healing systems around the world. And in that process, between the physicians and the clairvoyants, they started studying the strategies that were applied and following the people in the clinics. And over time started working and selecting those strategies that seemed to be most successful in healing. And in the process, what he developed actually became a new healing modality, which he called pranic healing, because it utilizes prana in the healing of the body. It's not using your own energy. Now, the system itself works with the chakras, primarily with the chakras. It also works with the various layers of the energy field, the etheric, the health waves, the psychological realm, including the emotional and mental fields. And to a certain extent, the meridians, it's not as oriented to meridians as it is to the chakras and the fields. Also, it addresses very directly working with the physiological systems, organs, right down to cells. So it's very comprehensive in that respect. Now, in the training, what I'm going to show you is there are many aspects to pranic healing, working with all these different fields of the meridians and the chakras. But I'm going to just show you just a little tiny snapshot of what it looks like when you're working with a particular chakra. And when people come for healing, the first thing that the healer will do will be scanning the body by using their hands, and their hands are trained as sensors. And so here is an example where the healer is going to be scanning certain conditions that you're looking for in the field. Let's see, what is this? There it is. So in this case, he is looking for congestion, particularly on the solar plexus. So he knows what has to be done. So he is going through the entire body, reading all of the chakras, and some may be congested, some may be really, really depleted, and they don't have enough pranic energy in that part of the body. And then some chakras will be very normal. They'll have the width and depth of what they should have. So scanning is a huge clinical component. It is the assessment tool. You are constantly evaluating your work, whether you need to do more work, less work, whatever. So after scanning the chakra, the next thing that happens is a process of what we call cleaning. And this basically is a series of handling, pulling that congestion and that diseased energy off of the body and removing it and putting it into a biodisposable unit. Energetic hygiene is extremely important. You do not want it to get on your field. You dispose of it. And there's various ways to dispose, but usually we're working with salt, a bottle or a bowl of salt water in so doing. Again, rescan, is all the congestion gone? Is it ready to now receive fresh prana? And so, fresh prana is drawn in from the atmosphere and is through the hand chakra, is pumped through by the chakras to the other hand chakra, which then projects it out onto a person. And the prana, there's different kinds of prana. There's prana that's coming up from the ground, there's prana coming from the air, there's prana in from the sun, and then there is what we call the divine energy, which is a very special type of prana that can be accessed also. And then after the energizing, there's a process called stabilization. You want that energy to stay exactly where you want it. And here he's going to energize again, put in a fresh prana, and then he is going to stabilize it with a scent and a light blue to hold that and keep it right there so it doesn't move around, where it can do the work it needs to do. So those are some very, very basic steps of working on a very localized area of the body, in this case, the chakra. Now, the underlying idea here is that when you cleanse this congestion off and you energize it with fresh prana, the imbalance in the condition of in the circulation of prana throughout the field is corrected. And pranic healing holds that the field is the blueprint, it is the mold, it is the template which the body follows. So all the information is held in the field. And any correction made in that subtle energy field then induces associated changes in the physical body over time. So as a result, pranic healing, we work with a system of 11 chakras instead of the 7 that you usually hear about and Dr. Tiller talked about. And we work with many, many minor chakras and mini chakras. And it's a system that is extremely precise in cleansing and delivering that fresh prana to very specific areas, whether they be chakras, systems, organs, or cells. So over the years, there have been over 4,000 protocols that have been developed that address many, many different kinds of conditions, whether they're physical or emotional. So this system is very, very issue-specific. Now, the study that was conducted here at CIHS offered a very unique opportunity to study one particular protocol, and that was the cancer protocol, as it works and it directs these subtle energies in combating cancer. And it's well known in medicine that cancer cells can multiply and they grow at a very rapid rate. And according to pranic healing theory, this rapid growth of cancer forces the lower chakras to alter their size, and it increases their depth and it increases their width. So as they can pull in additional prana to support this rapid growth of cancer. Now, correspondingly, the upper chakras actually become more depleted and more inhibited in the process, and they lose their ability to regulate these lower chakras. So the cancer protocol is very unique in its design to manipulate the energy to shrink these lower chakras and absolutely expand as maximum as possible these upper chakras. And if this manipulation truly occurs, and for years we've just been doing this, but we've never had this checked in a scientific way, it should be measurable in a very quantifiable way. And indeed you'll see as we go through this that this was the case. And it does provide some very objective evidence supporting the reality of these adjustments on the chakras throughout the body. But also this research revealed some other things I'm going to talk more about later, some very basic underlying principles that are behind all these healing strategies that we utilize in pranic healing. So about 5 years ago, the director of research approached our pranic healing center here next door, as Dr. Moriyama had wanted to explore the energetic effects of pranic healing as measured by the AMI machine. Now, the AMI machine is AMI standing for Apparatus for Meridian Identification. It was developed by Dr. Moriyama many years ago, and it's been heavily researched and validated as a very sophisticated instrument in being able to measure the flow of chi through each of the 12 major meridians. So at the time, one of the pranic healers in our group had just begun working with a woman with breast cancer, and so they both volunteered to participate for this research. Now, the AMI instrument performs electrodermal measurements at specific acupuncture points that are called say points, and these are located at the base of the fingers and the toenails. And they are the terminal points of the meridian channels at which chi exits or enters the channels. And there are 12 primary meridians, each that are symmetrically laid out on either side of the body, the left and right half of the body. Now, 2 non-active electrodes are attached to the forearms as grounded, and then these little square active electrodes with silver foil on them are attached to these points, these say points on the fingers and the toes. And the researcher goes through and he touches each one, starting with the left hand and then the right hand and the left foot and right foot in that sequence. And when he touches them, a slight voltage is applied and a wave form of response to this electrical impulse is captured and analyzed in the computer. And 3 parameters come out of this. One is called the BP, and it is a measure of the chi energy flow in a particular meridian, or also if you look at the entire chi energy in the body itself. And then there is AP, and this is a measure of the autonomic nervous system functioning at the time of that measurement. And then there is IQ, which is a measure of the immune system functioning at the time of that measurement. Now, this was conducted over 4 sessions, and each session was 1 week apart. The healer was seeing this woman twice a week But once a week, on the second session of that week, they came in and did this assessment. And it was conducted exactly at the same time, 1:30 to 3:30 each time, to minimize any possible influence of biorhythms on the readings. And each session, there was a reading that was taken right before the pranic healing, and then the pranic healing treatment occurred, and then it was taken again 10 minutes after the reading, and then 30 minutes, after the healing, and then 30 minutes after the healing. And this was done consistently for a month, 4 readings. Now, the patient was a 49-year-old female, and she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. It was in the left breast about 8 months before this present study. She sort of dilly-dallied. She was terrified of chemo, radiation, surgery, and so she eventually went into looking at alternative healing treatments. And I'm not even quite sure how she came to our clinic, but she did. And the other thing that I found really remarkable was here was a chance to really look at what happens when there is no other intervention of chemo and radiation and surgery. So it was a very unique opportunity. And the healer was a 52-year-old male. It was a certified pranic healer, and he had been practicing. He had a healing practice for 5 years. Now, before we start, I'm going to go into, this is a very complicated protocol, so I'm just going to talk to you about the overall goals of this particular cancer protocol. And one was basically clean all the chakras, just like you saw in that video. All the chakras, and that included not just major ones, but minor chakras, and the affected part. They had to do very thorough cleaning of the diseased energy, and so that you could put in fresh prana and have it flow into the system, which helps boost the body's ability to heal, or at least it reduces the rate of deterioration. And then the second goal was to normalize all the chakras. And this was to energize, but very specific upper chakras were activated. They were stretched as maximally as they could, and the lower chakras, certain lower chakras, were inhibited. Because inhibiting these lower chakras, you are really depriving the cancer cells from much needed prana. But when you're activating the upper chakras, you are pulling in higher, more refined prana for the body to use to heal. Okay, the third goal had to do with stimulating the defense system, okay, which again further hastens the healing process. And the fourth goal had to do with disintegrating, working on the tumor itself, disintegrating the cancer cells. And in pranic healing, these cancer tumor cells in this case, can be gradually disintegrated by using certain medium or dark-colored pranas in very laser-like fashion, and being applied in very laser-like fashion. So while this theory is used all the time in clinical practice, in treating cancer, such manipulation of the prana that goes on in this protocol has never been demonstrated by any type of scientific measurement. So we're going to look at the results now. Okay, now the first one has to do with showing the overall level of chi in her system before healing, which is the first measurement, and then 10 minutes after, 30 minutes after. Now, normal levels of overall chi energy is around 1600, which is up here, and above. So this is normal levels up here. And we see that by the end of the first session, that she was approaching that. And then in the second, third, and fourth sessions, it had increased. Okay? And then what we noticed that in subsequent sessions, it just seemed to plateau out. I think this is like a dosage kind of effect here. But it didn't matter how much pranic healing that you applied. Once it reached that level, optimum level for the body, it just stayed there. Okay? And clinically, we often see this. When people come in for healing, that first session, they feel such a charge of energy, and they feel great, and they're energized, and they're more alert. And then they come in for the second, and the third, and fourth, and the fifth, and they never get that same result like they did the first time. And they kind of get disappointed, like, oh, where's the big bang here, But this is the first time I've ever seen this in a quantifiable way. What actually happens, there's a leveling off of this overall chi level. So the results strongly imply that pranic healing acted. Now, the difference between here and here is that the increase of chi in the body itself was increased by 38%, which is significant. So right here we can see two principles I'm going to talk about in pranic healing theory. First, that life force or vital energy can be transmitted from one person to another. I didn't tell you how this occurred. In the healing rooms over there, they brought the equipment over, and they sat her in a chair, hooked her up to all of the electrodes, took the reading, took them all off. She climbed onto a massage table, and the treatment with cancer, with specific focus on breast cancer, was given. Then an experimenter went outside and waited. Then when it was all over, he came back in, applied all the electrodes, took the readings, and that was the way it reads at 10 minutes after, 30 minutes after. So what we're seeing here is first that it can be transmitted. I mean, when he was outside the room, the healer wasn't standing there sucking his thumb. He was doing something. He was cleaning, he was energizing, and we see these effects of whatever he was doing, but energy was being transmitted. And the second was principle by increasing the life force healing is accelerated. Prana has a capacity, it acts as a catalyst and accelerates the innate healing system within the body. Now we're going to look at where did this increase in chi energy occur. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the meridians are evaluated in terms of the upper part of the body, the lower part of the body, the left side, and the right side of the body. And this slide reflects the upper-lower ratio of chi energy to give us a picture of the balance of chi in the upper and lower parts of the body. And the value of 1 is given to indicate equal energy between the lower and upper body. And as can be seen here, there was substantially more chi energy in the lower body in that first session prior to the treatment. And by the end of the 30 minutes after, it had almost approached normal. And then in the second and third and fourth sessions, we see something happen here. We are not looking at normal as defined by traditional Chinese medicine, where there is equal balance between upper and lower meridians. We see it going further up. Each session higher and higher and higher. Okay? Now, and the researchers at the time didn't understand this phenomenon, because you have to understand that healing, as they evaluated different healing systems, Qigong or Reiki or whatever, the responses start to come closer and closer and closer until it finally becomes equal. But this is not what was happening with pranic healing. Now, remember that the whole body increased by 38%. But when they looked at the upper body ratio, it increased by 61%, and the lower body increased by 18%. So we can see that the upper body chi energy was 3.4 times greater than the lower body chi energy at the end of the fourth session. And these results had never been observed before with the AMI. And so to the researchers' knowledge, this was the first systematic detection of chi energy that appeared to corroborate whatever the intention was of the healing protocol, activate or inhibit those chakras that had been altered by the presence of cancer. Now there's something else here that I want you to see. You know, where was the greatest, in the three measurements of the session, which one had the greatest read of energy? It was always at the 30 minutes, wasn't it? Okay. So this is another principle in pranic healing that has to do with lifetime. There's a principle of lifetime. It takes time for the energy to penetrate and percolate into the physical body. And you see this lag in time occurring. And in the past, when I had clients evaluating the AMI, I usually do it the day after the healing session, because there is where you see the greatest penetration of the energy, and you can see what is happening to the subtle energy body. So that was one principle that really revealed itself, and it was the principle of lifetime. And also notice the level of upper body chi at the beginning of the fourth session. Okay? Now here it is, first, second, third, but bam, it's up here at the fourth. And another principle began to reveal itself, and this has to do with the principle of stabilization. When energy, remember when you saw he painted it blue? It really held that energy in place. But when you are manipulating a chakra, or the energy in a chakra, or the energetic pattern in a chakra, that has to be absolutely stabilized and to hold that energy and that energetic pattern. In this case, large on top, small on bottom. Okay? Otherwise, the energy tends to move out, it tends to leak out of an area, or it will tend to degrade over time. So the symptoms would tend to reoccur. So what we see here is that this is, you see how it fell down from here to here, from here to here, but by the time we get between the third and fourth session, she comes into the fourth session with all of these upper chakras already activated and holding the energy from where she was the week before. So this is a great demonstration of this principle of stabilizing. Okay, this is changes of chi energy between the left and right sides of the body. And again, the value of 1 is given to indicate that there is equal energy between the left and right body. And again, this slide is quite unusual because at the beginning it starts out balanced, and then 10 minutes after healing, it jumps over to the left, and then it reverts back 30 minutes later. Okay? And it happened again, and again, and again. So, what do you think is going on here? Okay? So, what, again, we have a lot of discussion about this. We really had to go back to the cancer protocol. There are 26 steps on here that have to be accomplished, okay, at every healing session. And the last 8 have to do with disintegrating cancer cells, okay? So the end of the session, the last 20 minutes, the last half hour of the session is really working on that tumor. And where was the tumor?
Left breast.
Left breast. So what we're seeing here is that it seemed to pick up a shift of focus and the energy, a shift of focus and energy to that left side at the end of the session. But again, 30 minutes later, the energy bounced back and balanced out. So again, very unusual. And again, this occurs 0.003 times, 3 out of 1,000. Very significant. Now we're going to look at some specific meridians themselves. And this slide shows the upper chi energy. And the upper graph shows meridians And this shows the meridians as measured by the toes down here in this graph. Okay. And the inner circle represents that black circle, the average value of the meridians in that system. And the spokes on either side represent the left channel and the right channel, like here's heart, left heart, right heart, meridians. Okay, and generally, in healthy, very well balanced conditions, the graphs tend to be very round in the results, and the sizes are comparable for upper and lower bodies. Now, these two charts were before the first pranic healing and started, and you can see that there is an excess of energy down here in the lower body again, and you see up here where there is, it's less than average in all the meridians with the exception of the lung meridian. And then when we look at this again at the fourth session, what happened? Okay, you see that now we see an excess of energy in the meridians in the upper body, and they're much more rounded. And here we see a general shrinkage of the energy in the meridians in the lower body, a relative shrinkage, particularly in the kidney meridian. Now, in one of his books, Dr. Moyama proposed the existence of a correlation between meridians, which I am not that familiar with, and chakras. And although the chakras he referred to are based on that yogi tradition of 7 chakras, and they're not exactly the same as pranic healing, there are some correspondences here between the two. And that's what we have. We have the pranic healing chakras that we're working with, and here are the yogic chakras here. And then here are the meridians associated with each one of those chakras, okay, over here. Okay, and notice they're in pairs, yin-yang pairs. Okay, and if you notice the basic chakra here, which they call the Muladhara here, is really connected to, all by itself, the kidney meridian. So the researchers wanted to know what happened to those corresponding meridians as the chakras were activated and inhibited. Just the meridians that were associated with those chakras. And here are the upper body chakras that we were activating. These are the lower body chakras that we were inhibiting. Okay. What we found that all of the meridians that are associated with those chakras that got activated increased in chi value, and all of the meridians of those chakras that we inhibited decreased in chi value. And we found that in the upper body meridians, 49%, there was a 49% increase in chi energy in the lung, large intestine, when the throat chakra was activated and made large. There was a 37% increase in the heart small intestine when the front heart chakra was activated. And there was an over 50% increase in chi energy in the pericardium and triple heater meridian when the back heart was activated. And in the lower one, we see a decrease of over 38% in the kidney bladder meridians when the sex chakra was inhibited, over 33% decrease in chi energy in the spleen stomach meridians when the solar plexus was inhibited, over 16% decrease in the liver gallbladder meridian when it was inhibited, or when men was inhibited. But the most pronounced decrease was in that kidney meridian, those in the left and right channels, and that was over 25%. So the researchers concluded that these shifts were probably due, okay, to the pranic healer's work on these chakras. Probably. Well, when you write research, you have to say it like that, right? Okay. You think of all the ways why it would occur that way, and then try to refute that, and then say it's probably due to this. Okay.
I would say they're correct in that.
Okay, so changes in the state of the autonomic nervous system. Now, as we said yesterday, the autonomic nervous system is made up of two subsystems. There is the sympathetic nervous system, which mobilizes the body's resources under stress, and it induces that fight or flight response. And then there is the parasympathetic nervous system, which can be summarized as rest and digest. So with the sympathetic nervous system, you can see it as the accelerator. The parasympathetic nervous system is the brake. So average scores range between 11 and 20. And in this slide, you can see that the AP values were rather high at the beginning of the first two sessions, actually. And by the end of the measurement, they had subsided after healing. And then in session 3 and 4, they stayed, they were comparable to that post-healing state of 1 and 2. So we can probably say the patient appeared no longer to be stressed out and nervous as she participated in these healing trials. But I also feel that it suggests that the healing reduced that sympathetic nervous system function, and it activated the parasympathetic nervous system function. And this is a condition that is very, very conducive for the innate healing process body internal, which brings up another principle of pranic healing, and that is the body has the capacity to self-heal, self-repair, and self-recover. It is constantly doing this 7/24, but it mostly occurs when the parasympathetic system is activated, which is when we are at rest and when we are sleeping. So another principle was revealed here. And then the changes in the immune system function and the IQ values. The average range of the immune system functioning ranges between 1,000 and 1,500. And in this slide you can see that the IQ values at the beginning of the first session were at that very, very low end of the average range here. But in that one session it increased 30%. And then in subsequent sessions, it continued to increase overall, not as much, but by the end it increased a total of 45%, which is significant, and it implied this progressive activation of the immune function, and again, which was another goal of the pranic healing protocol. Okay, it feels like I left material out, but I don't know what it is. We'll just move on. So in conclusions, the overall chi energy level increased by 38% through the healing trial, upper body by 61%, lower body by 18%, corroborating the goal of the pranic healing cancer protocol, which was cleanse all chakras. Okay, and that's just from that, you see this increase in chi energy. The upper-lower balance was shifted significantly from the lower body to the upper body, corroborating the goal of the pranic healing cancer protocol, which was normalize all chakras, okay, to counteract the impact of cancer on the energy system. The left-right balance shifted significantly to the left side at 10 minutes post-measurement before rebounding, reflecting work on the cancer tumor in the left breast, corroborating the goal of the pranic healing cancer protocol, which was disintegrate cancer cells. And then meridians associated with the upper and lower chakras that were activated or inhibited correspondingly showed an increase or decrease in energy, a goal of the pranic healing cancer protocol, which was again reflected at that normalize all chakras. The autonomic nervous system shifted from the sympathetic nervous system state to the parasympathetic nervous system state, conducive for the innate healing process of the body to occur. The immune system function was significantly enhanced and maintained, corroborating a goal of the pranic healing cancer protocol, which would stimulate the defense system. So this study quantifiably demonstrated that pranic healing does indeed appear to manipulate prana in very specific and unique ways. However, something else that was not considered at the time of the research, and I have been looking at this data for some time, and I began to realize that other information was coming forward from this that I hadn't thought about at the time, and that was the very basic fundamental principles that Master Chua had formulated as he studied all these different systems. So I'm just going to go through those very briefly. I think he has about 20 basic principles, and some were illuminated here. There was the principle of recovery. The body has the ability to repair itself. There's the principle of life force. In order for it to repair itself, it has to have something, some sort of life force or vital energy to do this work. There is the principle of transmittability. Energy can be transmitted from person to person, or person to object, or object to person, but there is this ability to transmit energy. And then there is the principle of directability. The energy that you're sending, you can direct it to do certain things. You can direct it to stabilize it. You can direct it to normalize a chakra. You can direct it to activate or inhibit.
Yeah.
Inhibit. Okay? We're not shutting it off. We just are inhibiting the size. Never shut off the chakra. And then there is the principle of stabilizing. Since after listening to Dr. Tiller yesterday, I've given a lot of thought to this particular principle because I was listening to how, remember how he talked about when he was working with the intention that he was placing in that box, and he would renew it every 3 months, every 90 days. This is really important. We do this all the time in pranic healing, stabilizing this energy, holding it. The energy field itself is in constant motion, all right? So there is movement every time we move. The limb is moving in response to that. Every time we have our emotions is moving. Every time we have thoughts, whether it is conscious or unconscious thinking, it is in reaction with that process. And so it's in constant fluctuation. So energy that you put in eventually will start to, over 2 or 3 hours, start to move around. You don't want that. You want it to stay right where you have it. So stabilization is very, very important. Another thing is that sometimes Dr. Tiller used the word degrade and or decay. I think that's the word, decay. I use the word degrade because you can put it there in place, but over time it will eventually degrade. Sometimes the healer's energy, the intention wasn't strong enough. Sometimes it is the effect of the disease is so powerful, and cancer is like that. Sometimes it is the care that the patient is doing in caring for themselves as they're going through this process. And when we're working with cancer, we have a lot of do's and don'ts with if we're going to work with cancer, because we are really wanting those chakras to remain stable with all the alterations. So, for example, if we inhibit, say, the base chakra, basic chakra, one of the things that they have to understand is they can't wear crystals. Okay? Because what happens? You put a crystal on, the lower chakras expand, and they just broke your stabilization pattern. Okay? We tell them during this period, no meat. Meat has a lot of red prana. It takes a lot of red prana for the base chakra to metabolize that. So it expands to help digest and metabolize meat. So, off comes the jewelry and no sex, just for the time being. Well, we are working on this, and, that can be, a year. This is very hard. They don't want to agree to this. But we know this principle of stabilization. I mean, this has to happen if we want to be successful with this energy. Okay, so a lot of times when we sit down and go through post-patient care, or in this case it's pre-patient care, because they have to agree to these people with their injuries. Because of this principle alone, it will sabotage and undermine your work. And then there is the principle of lifetime. Okay, it takes time. The energy field can be modulated very rapidly, but it takes time for those changes to percolate in to the physical body where the patient can feel the effect of that. So all of these principles, which I have never seen anywhere validated, was also part of came through in this piece of research. So this research offered a very unique opportunity to study chronic healing theory as it works in direct subtle energies. And of course, this protocol is very unique and is designed to shrink certain lower chakras and expand certain upper chakras. And over the month of careful assessments, the results were really quite amazing and really very unexpected. And we had quite a few meetings with Dr. Harada and Dr. Toshia, between me and them, with our Pranic Healing group, trying to explain these results because they were very unfamiliar with Pranic Healing theory, and I was more laissez-faire, blasé about this, but I did not understand from their perspective how unusual these readings were on the AMI, and they were trying to grasp what was causing that. So these results did not fall in that health pattern of balanced meridians as defined by traditional Chinese medicine. And I tried to explain to Dr. Aggressive cancer is very, very aggressive. It's very, very patient. It takes a huge toll on the energy system, on the energy bodies. And Master Choa, in his wisdom, devised a protocol that was equally aggressive in the opposite way to counteract this energy configuration that cancer creates on the chakras and in the fields. So, in our own way, we were balancing, but we were balancing the impact of cancer as a way of fighting it. So, in the final analysis, this research provided objective evidence supporting the reality of chronic healing adjustments of subtle energy, and it also, again, demonstrated the sensitivity of the AMI machine that they have here at CIHS in registering energetic changes regardless of the intentions or the healing system being evaluated. And this study was published in September 2010 in the journal Lysine, and you can log on it at www.lysine.org to obtain an article. So I really wanted to thank Hope for allowing me to present this important research. Pranic healing has been here in the United States about 21 years. Okay, and this is the first quantifiable research that has ever been done on pranic healing that really demonstrated that in the delivery of the subtle energy, pranic healing appears to do exactly what it purports to do. So I thank you very much for this opportunity. Well, she is with us. It's been 5 years. She has not seen a doctor. We have tried to get her to see doctors. She stopped for a period of a year, and then she came back and scanned, and this energetic profile was there. So we have been working with her. She is very inconsistent. Sometimes she comes in once a month, sometimes twice a month. She's a very timid, very anxious, very fearful kind of woman who has had to face a lot of things by herself. She's alone. So we're still working with her, but right now she is so much better than she was 5 years ago. She has a lot of energy. She's returning to the workforce.
These patients chose to have the traditional modalities of chemotherapy radiation. How would that affect the
Okay, if a person chose to have chemotherapy and radiation, how does it affect the therapy? It makes it a little more difficult, but still we carry out the same thing. How many of you are healers in here? Yes. How many of you have scanned and looked at the energy field after chemo or radiation? It's destroyed. It's destroyed. Completely destroyed. So this protocol rebuilds that field. Okay? And we try to get them in the same day they have chemo, they come right in. Because remember the principle of lactose. If that field is completely deteriorated, what kind of information is coming into the body? So you see all the side effects of chemo and radiation. So we try to build that field up as fast as possible after a particular treatment, so they don't have the side effects that they're normally have.
Did you do any further tracking on the cellular repair or on the DNA, on the changes of the DNA of the person?
No, I haven't done that. No. Was there any more other questions?
Can I make a comment?
You want to make a comment? Steve wants to make a comment.
Bob's going to be angry at me, but I wanted to say something in support of this. I've been doing clairvoyant stuff, energy work since the 70s. This is the number one modality that I recommend to others to start with, to use as a core. When they put out healers and healers and so forth, if you just follow the recipe, the plant does what it says. It works fantastically with pretty much any modality you can imagine. It is so incredibly easy. My first advanced class, when I left, I used it on a motorcycle versus truck accident on the freeway. It was real quick to slow down, stop the bleeding, keep him in the shock, keep him coherent, keep the guy, mellow. It just plain flat works as described.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. And it's a great
One quick thing. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. We have lunch outside. We have feedback forms on the table over there. If you want to be on our mailing list and get our newsletter, all of our information,